everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Gate, our Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And today we're talking about episode 10, Separate Destinations.
Yes. So, when the conspiracy surrounding the Philosopher's Stone closes in on the highest ranks of the military, one of Mustang's most trusted and cherished allies is murdered.
And this covers the second half of chapter 15 in the manga, Full Metal Heart, and chapter 16, Separate Paths.
It's an awesome episode.
I have been waiting for this one, but not in the way I'm excitedly waiting for most episodes.
Yeah. It's like we gotta get through this. Kind of like the Nina episode.
Mm-hmm.
So we can jump right in. The episode opens with the Ishvalan War. The soldiers are getting slaughtered by the Ishvalan people because they're running out in the open while the Ishvalans are hiding.
Yeah, and it's this Rollins home turf. I wonder.
Yeah. Well, I was saying when we were discussing this that it reminds me of like the American Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Where like the I remember like reading it, the British were like upset because like the Americans like fought dirty, as in they like didn't line up in a line and it like wait to be slaughtered. They actually like tried to hide themselves and
as Ed would say, there's no such thing as dirty in a fight to the death.
That's true.
If it's life or death, I'm gonna cheat.
Yeah. Anyway, while the soldiers are getting slaughtered, we see Mustang and Hughes just talking about the war and stuff, and Mustang, I don't know, I like his quote, but the main part of it is like, I'll do everything possible to protect the ones I love. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of leads into a discussion about that he wants to become pure in order to protect the ones that he loves. And Hughes just says, that he'll be behind him. He's going to be in support of Mustang. And then we see that Mustang was daydreaming, and Riza hits him with like, there's an empty bed, somewhere if you need a nap. And the reason that he's tired is, because they've been packing up because they're moving to Central.
Ooh.
So they're gonna join everybody else where all the action is. And then we go back to Ed's hospital bed, hospital room, and he has drawn envy and lust, and it's hilarious. He's a very poor artist.
He got the basic point across, though.
He did, but I think part of the reason why he's not very good at drawing is because he's doing it with his right metal hand.
Oh, doesn't he he learned how to use his left hand for writing and stuff like that, so
he did?
I'm pretty sure, so I don't think he's a true lefty, but he
had
to learn.
Have we seen him? I guess his hand probably doesn't have enough.
There's not enough dexterity in the metal arm for him to control the pen. Because I'm pretty sure I saw him writing with his left when they were when he and Al were deciphering Marco's notes.
Okay.
I'd have to look back just to make sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll be watching for that. Because I didn't notice that.
Little tidbits in shows like this, but his portraits of envy and lust. I'm sure Armstrong is looking over his shoulder and judging him hardcore because the art of portraiture has been passed down for generations in the Armstrong line. He's quite good at it.
Yeah. And so Ed's showing his drawings to Armstrong and Hughes, and they're discussing what happened at the Fifth Laboratory, and they're kind of putting everything together, like these two strange people they mentioned that they have Ouroboros tattoos, which we saw. The one is on Lust's chest, and then Envy's
thigh.
It's on his thigh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, the Ouroboros tattoos. it's like a circular symbol, which is depicting a snake, or it can also depict a dragon swallowing its own tail, and it's like an emblem of wholeness or infinity.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting because when we learn more about the characters, that will make sense.
Yeah.
And then we see Ross and Brosh are listening into the conversation, and while they're listening, somebody arrives. It is the Fuhrer. His name is a lot. It's Fuhrer President King Bradley. Like,
woo.
Yeah. So it's basically like three titles for a leader in his name, which is kind of ridiculous. But they call him Mr. President, at least in the manga, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Fuhrer leader. It's not a dictatorship, I don't think, but it is definitely a military-based government. I'm not sure if it's exactly like the German government in World War II. It's definitely based upon that. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of thought that goes into the world building here in this story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And Fuhrer barges into their kind of private conversation, and he has brought a melon for Ed. He just hands it to him. And then he asks what they're doing, and he kind of seems to know about what they've been investigating, the Fifth Laboratory and the Philosopher's Stone. And he noticed that Armstrong was checking up on the senior staff, and At first it's scary because he's like, "What do you know?" And then he like starts laughing and he's like, "I'm just kidding." And he orders them. He orders them basically like the information can't leave the room. They can't tell anybody about what they've been discussing.
Yes. I like how he phrases it in the manga. The Fuhrer says, "I will not allow you to speak of this to anyone or stick your neck in this matter any further. This is truly a case where you cannot tell friend from foe. Trust no one." So he's giving them a warning as well as an order.
Yep. And then he hears his bodyguards coming and he jumps out the window.
Because he just wanted a moment of privacy.
Yeah. He's a character.
I liked his depiction here because he's kind of like fatherly almost to a fatherly attitude anyways to Ed, even though they don't know each other, that well. And he seems like very in control, and he's the Fuhrer, so he has to be very in control of his actions and well versed in everything at all times. And then his bodyguards come and he's just like, "Stupid bodyguards always following me around, babysitting me. Okay, goodbye."
Yeah. And then just as he jumps out the window, Winry comes to visit. Which now that I'm just thinking of this now, that I'm surprised that like Ross and Brosh let her in, because like the Fuhrer is in there, and wouldn't you want like some kind of like, hey, like not just anybody can go and have access to him. But
I don't know. I think Ross and Brosh are still having heart attacks from just the fear sneaking up on them.
Yeah. And anyway, Winry has bought tickets to Dublin for the Elrics. And they're gonna head out to Dublin, which I saw in the manga is like in the southern region of Amestris. And Ed has only been in the hospital for 2 days, they mentioned, which is like, what? Bro, you
he's not healed, but he's got cabin fever, so he needs out.
Yeah. And find out that they're going to visit their teacher, and Al is terrified about that. And while they're like looking at the map about where Dublin is, Winry sees that on the way is a town called Rush Valley, and she is so excited because that's where it's like an automill engineer's dream
Yes. In the manga, she says it's the auto male engineer's mecca.
Yeah. And at first, she's like, take me with you, please, please, please. And Ed is like, no, but then he says, if Al's fine with it, or if Al agrees.
Yes, because Al being the little mediator that he is like, well, it is on the way, brother. We can drop her off and we can look around. It'll be fine.
Yes. And then Hughes, who has been observing this whole time, just says she'll make you a fine wife someday. And of course, Ed is like,
would you drop it?
Yeah. After we find out the boys' plans, we see Hughes hanging out with his families, saying goodbye to them before he heads off to work. And then at the same time, Ed and Al and Winry are leaving for Dublin, and everybody's at the train station, like waving them off. I think it's just Rosh and Brass and Armstrong, but I don't, in the manga at least. I think it's the same in the anime. That Alicia and Gracie are also there.
Okay,
I can't.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they were there in the anime.
Yeah,
but
I can't remember.
In the manga, I remember
yeah.
Alicia was she was crying because Winry was leaving.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this like last week, but I think this is the first time that in the manga Ed and Al actually see Gracie and Alicia. Like, this is the first time
because they hadn't met the family quite yet.
Yeah.
So they probably know them through Winry because she was staying with them.
Yeah. Then we go back. We will go back to Hughes. He's reading the paper and just like discussing with this other army official about that there was the trouble in Lior and then the Ishvalan War, and then they're talking about how there's been kind of riots and skirmishes like all over the country, and then he seems to like think of something or remember something, and he runs to the archive room by himself to look at a map, and he seems to like be putting a bunch of different things together, and he like figures something out. He makes the realization, is like, oh, I need to tell somebody about this. But we see a shadow, and it is Lust. She attacks Hughes, and it's pretty awesome because we haven't seen it to this point, but he has like these throwing knives, and
so in previous episodes, when he turns around, you can see that he's got like this kind of holster thing in his belt, and there's always a knife there. But, you haven't seen Hughes actually fight yet like the others, so you don't know if he's, any good as a soldier or if he has any special abilities. He does. He pivots away from Lust, throws his knife as she tries to skewer him with her glove things. He dodges enough that he doesn't get hit in a fatal spot, but he still gets his shoulder speared through. But he lands a dead center accurate knife throw to Lust's forehead.
Yeah, it's awesome. In the manga, she just says, like, oh, I guess he's more than like a desk jockey or whatever. I don't remember exactly what she says, but it's I was very impressed, and also I really like when people can like throw things with like really good accuracy. It's super super cool. And anyway, so he's injured, and he like runs out the room, and he goes to make a phone call. He just says to him in the manga, he says he's gonna call the president, which is interesting because like when I was watching this, I just like assumed he was gonna call Mustang, but he decides against it, and he leaves the building and goes to a telephone booth, and he calls. This time he calls Mustang, and it's very urgent, but because he's not on like the military line, he has to give a code, and
in the manga, he's frustrated. In the manga, he curses so heavily that like Ed's curse, it's bleeped out. It has just like the hashtag that symbol, exclamation mark, what people do instead of cursing. And it's like, are you serious?
Yep.
But he gets out his code and, it's military alphabet. So like Alpha, Charlie, Roger, stuff like that. But he gets his code through and he's patched through to Mustang. And then somebody is behind him once again.
Yes. Yeah. Well, first, this is important. A family photo falls out of his pocket.
Yes.
And like, it's very visible on the ground. And then, yeah, somebody comes up behind him and it's Ross and she has a gun pointed at his head, but realizes right away that it's not actually her because she's missing a mole. I think it's like under her right eye, I think.
Under her left eye, there's a small mole, and kudos to him, he picks up on that right away, and that it can't be her.
Yeah, I think I just like to me that's like, well, one, he's observant, but also like he like cares about people, like he notices the things about them, which
exactly
I think was nice, but
finding that out and calling this person out on not having the appearance, the person says, "Oh, why aren't you perceptive?" and just taps their cheek and the mole appears. And if you hadn't guessed, it's Envy, the shapeshifter.
Yes. And he was kind of stalling and you see him like get out another knife, and as he turns around to throw it, Envy has turned into his wife. And it's presumably because he saw the photo on the ground. And he's like, you wouldn't shoot, you wouldn't, attack your wife, would you? And in that moment, he was like, freezes up. Envy shoots him.
Yeah. And Envy says an important line here. Envy says, "I'll never understand humans. You throw away your lives for nothing."
Which I kind of like. I find it interesting because that can be true.
It's a very poignant line, but there's also a phrase that runs through my head, and it says "never for nothing." So in some ways, I agree that mankind, we can throw our lives away for stupid things. Like you were mentioning before, Meg, that we fight wars over things that shouldn't be fought over sometimes. Other times there are good reasons.
Yes,
but
there are. But sometimes they're not good reasons, and it's just why did we need to lose so many lives for nothing, or it seems like nothing. But I think in this case, it was not nothing.
No, definitely.
And so after, he's been shot, the call finally, like Mustang finally picks up the phone and he's like, he thinks, he's like, oh, Hughes is just going to talk about his family again. And he's like, Hughes, and he's like yelling his name, and then Envy hangs up the phone. And in the final part of the scene, Hughes is just talking about his family and like thinking about them, and then
I'm sorry I can't make it home speech.
Yeah,
it's just authors and script writers just add that in to make us feel more pain. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's like twist of the knife.
Yep.
So it kind of leaves us there in that phone booth. And then we go back to Ed and Al and Winry on the train, and Ed and Winry are eating Gracie's quiche, and it's very good. And Al puts it on his list of food he's gonna eat when he gets his body back, and Winry's like, "Oh, I'll make it for you."
I want that recipe. If somebody has, we should scour the internet because I'm sure somebody has made replica recipes of things in this show, but anime food just looks amazing.
Yeah.
I actually did make quiche today, and though it tasted okay, it was not Mrs. Hughes's quiche.
I'm impressed you had time for that today.
I didn't.
I don't have time for this today, but here we are. So anyway, and while they're eating the quiche, Winry's like gushing about the Hughes family and how they're all so amazing, and Ed is like, really? Because I don't know, Hughes is kind of annoying, but he secretly loves him because Al's like, he visited you every day, brother, in the hospital, and he even blew off work to say hi. And like you can tell Ed's like, oh yeah, like, that's true. And he's like, we should, do something nice for him and say thanks to Hughes when they get back, which of course is just another like
stab.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Ed in the manga. He calls Hughes super dad, kind of, in a mocking way, but I think he's got admiration for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he likes him.
Yeah.
Oh, he likes him all right. And then we go back to the sadness. Hughes is indeed dead. We're at his funeral, and a lot of the big players are there. The Fuhrer's there, and Mustang and Riza and Armstrong, and it's just I don't know. You can tell how much he was loved because everybody's like just so sad. And it's Alicia, his daughter. That's like the real tearjerker because it's just like she's just saying, "Don't put dirt on Daddy. He has so much to do." And just like I don't know, this whole scene, like, it's kind of, I remember the first time watching it, like, I think you said too that there was like a part of you that was like, oh, I don't,
maybe
like,
he's okay.
Maybe he's alive, maybe he's okay. And then like they cut to the scene and it's
like
no,
crushing all your hopes.
Yeah, it's not okay.
This is anime. A lot of times people can get seriously wounded but not die just for the dramatic effect. And we don't technically see Hughes take his last breath or see the light leave his eyes. He's just left in the phone booth. So you think maybe in the next scene, Roy will be rushing to his aid and he could get him to a hospital in time. But no, it didn't happen like that. And they're at the funeral. You don't even get to really see his body. You don't get to say goodbye that much. You just see everybody else sad. And then his poor 3-year-old daughter doesn't understand quite the concept of death yet. And I think when we watched it for the first time also, when she started saying those things like, stop putting dirt on Daddy, and she's crying, you and I just went, oh, why'd you have to add that? Come on, don't.
Yeah, it was like, it felt almost like a little bit too much, but also like, I think it's also good because then you see like how sad it is and like how important he was to everybody.
They're not gonna gloss over this death. Sometimes a character dies in media and they're just mentioned once or twice and then it's over, which I hate. But in this, they actually took the time to make a scene for his funeral to kind of say goodbye to him and prove that he meant a lot in the story.
Yeah. And then after the funeral, at the end of the day, Mustang he's at the grave, by himself, and he notices that, Hugh's been promoted or he just takes note that he's been promoted to Brigadier General. And yeah, in the manga, it says actually he's been promoted to Major General, and Riza like comes up behind him and he's talking to her and he's like, he's like, alchemists are like, I think he's like, alchemists are like truly horrible. Like even now he's like trying to figure out human transmutation. There's like a small part of him that like wants to bring Hughes back. And he like understands the Elrics decision to perform human transmutation. And then he hits us with this, it's a terrible day for rain. And Riza is like, well, it's not raining, sir. And then you just see like a tear coming down his face. And it's...
Yeah, this is rain. He's He won't even admit that he's crying. And Riza just, I love the soft tone she takes with him, and she's like, "Oh, it is raining. I see. We should go inside then." Kind of, she understands. She gets him. Yeah. And you had a note. You saw something, like a post about that quote.
Yeah, somebody, like, posted, I think it's, like, on Tumblr or whatever, that when Roy says that it's raining, or it's tailboard day for rain, it seems like he says this because he's crying, but Mustang equates rain to being useless. And so when he's saying this, he's actually saying, like, he feels useless. He feels powerless because his best friend is gone and he couldn't do anything about it. And it's so sad. It's just even sadder. And I also agree that I think it has a double meaning. I think it both means, like,
for sure.
He's crying, but then also, like, he feels helpless. He feels useless in this situation. And he is determined to figure out who did this. He's investigating Hugh's death. He goes to the archive room there, and then they see the trail of blood, and he talks to the woman who was like monitoring, like, the phone booths, the lines, and he's like, well, whatever Hughes must have, tell him must have been important, because he, like, went out to the phone booth and he had to give his code, which in the anime they say it's only for military emergencies. And then Armstrong and Riza show up, and Armstrong tells Mustang that they have a narrow list of suspects, but he, like, refuses to tell Mustang who they are, even when Mustang orders him to, which until this point I didn't know this, but Mustang is above Armstrong in military ranking. And then he's like, well, sorry, I can't help you in your investigation. But then he does drop one more thing. He tells Mustang that the Elrics were in Central, and Mustang asks if they found what they were looking for, and Armstrong is like, nope, they can't find it because it's a myth. And then he leaves, and Riza's like, well, he wasn't very helpful. Sorry about that. And he's like, nope, I learned important things. One, they know it's multiple suspects, so it must be, like, some kind of organization, and the senior military is involved, because the only way that Armstrong would not have told him is if somebody had ordered him not to, and that it likely has to do with the Elrics and the Philosopher's Stone, since they mentioned it.
I like how Roy got his information. It's not about what Armstrong said, it's about what he didn't say. And through deductive reasoning, he's just like, aha, I've got it figured out.
Yeah. And I also like that, I think you can tell, like, earlier, when the Fuhrer was like, don't trust anyone. Well, obviously Armstrong, even though he's following orders, he does trust Mustang, because he was dropping hints. Mustang, he's ready to shake things up. He's gonna come to Central and work his way up and become the Fuhrer, and he's gonna find out who killed Hughes. For now, right now, this is, like, I feel like this is, like, turning point for him in his career. Like, things have gotten personal now. His best friend was murdered, and it was likely some kind of conspiracy. And then I like he asks Riza to join him, and she's like, you even have to ask.
Haha.
And
my
then,
ship is sailing.
And then the episode ends with the Elrics on the train, looking happy, totally oblivious to what has happened in
I hate
Central.
that. When a character is going to find something out, and it's just the most terrible thing. That happens a lot in books to me, where if characters are separated in a story, there's like maybe 2 or 3 who find out something terrible or that their friend has died, and there's just like one character who is away at that point, and you're like, oh great, a couple chapters later, I'm gonna have to relive that all over again when that character finds out.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the end of the episode, so we can go into voice acting notes. Riza Hawkeye is played by Colleen Clinkenbeard. We're not going to go through what she's been in because she also played Rose from episode 3. So we said what she was in that episode if you want to go back and listen to that. And Roy Mustang is voiced by Travis Willingham. He also voiced Lonk from Fire Emblem, which is kind of funny because Lonk is a character who is very bashful around women, and Roy kind of professes to be a ladies' man. He also plays Free from Soul Eater and Takashi Moronozuki from Ouran High School Host Club, and I probably butchered that name. Sorry, guys. And their name meanings. So Riza is from Arabic origins, and it means satisfaction. Roy is from Scottish origins, and it means red.
Which fits. So, one other thing we wanted to do in this episode is talk about the military rankings and how that works in this world. I don't know like anything about the military, and whenever anybody like says their ranking, I'm always like,
is that good?
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if it's similar to like the like military rankings in the real world or not, but here's how it works in the Full Metal world. The top ranking is the Fuhrer President, and that's obviously Fuhrer President Bradley. And then the ranking under that is General, and then Lieutenant General, and then we have Major General, and there's okay, this is a very poor picture because I can't read what it says, but it's Major General Hokuro? Hokuro or something. And then we have the Brigadier General, which is what Hughes was promoted to. And another example of that is Brigadier General Grand, which he was he was an alchemist, right? Mm-hmm. That was killed.
Was he the iron-blooded alchemist?
Maybe. That sounds... I don't remember that sounds right.
We'll just go with that.
Okay. All right. And then after the Brigadier General, then it's the Colonel. So Colonel Mustang. And then we have Lieutenant Colonel, which that is what Hughes was. And then we have Major Armstrong, and then I think also Ed would technically be considered like
that's true. Equivalent of a major for his state alchemist title.
Yep. And then right under Major we have Captain, which aren't any examples for that yet. And then First Lieutenant, which Hawkeye is the first lieutenant, and then we have second lieutenant, which Lieutenant Ross, and then Lieutenant. Wow, it's one of the guys in the
Havoc. Havoc is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's 3 actually, because Lieutenant Havoc, and then there's one more. It starts with a B. He's also part of. Yep. And then the minor officers and slash soldiers, we have the warrant officer, which that's the Fullman, which is he's also part of
Roy's crew.
Roy's crew. And then we have Master Sergeant, which is Master Sergeant Fury, which he's
also
part of Roy's crew. And then we have the Sergeant, which Brosh is a sergeant. And then the last ranking is Corporal, which there aren't any examples of that.
I think, would Sheska technically be a corporal? Or is she just employed by the military without a title?
I don't know, because I don't think they ever give her a title.
Yeah, but she's privy to important information, so I thought maybe they had to, but, that's fine. She gets a uniform, so whatever.
Yeah.
She gets a tiny mini skirt.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, that's the military rankings in Full Metal.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I can't say, like, I don't have any military background whatsoever, so I can't say if that's accurate to any military in our world or in the past, but it sounds like titles I've heard before.
Yeah, I've like heard of pretty much all of them, but I'd never know like what order they're in.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to story element analysis. So yeah, we're going to skip the other analysis in favor of doing a longer story element one, because in this episode we have a death, an important death in the story, and death is a part of life, but it's also a part of fictitious stories because they're often based on life. And in this case, we wanted to discuss why fictional characters' deaths impact us so much, because I know both of us have cried over fictional characters before, so.
Yes.
In some cases, I have been messed up the next day about fictional characters' death. But yeah, is that okay to be sad about that, or is that not okay since they're made up? But there was research done, and Robert Rowney, a psychiatrist, said that these characters are an escape from some of the stresses of life. Watching these shows allows you to decompress and not have to think about things for a little while. You're exposed to different aspects of the characters' lives, their losses, their loves, their own griefs, everything that goes into the human condition. And you eventually begin to empathize with them and form an attachment. We see some of ourselves in them. Because of these emotional bonds we form watching certain characters, it's perfectly understandable that we mourn their loss when they die on a show. There's a reasoning behind it. It's obviously going to be different than grieving someone you lost in your actual life, but the reality is what you experience. If you're invested enough, the death of a character is going to be very real to you. Tons of people felt affected by the loss of a certain character, he said. Having some tearfulness, feeling upset by it, that's absolutely normal. So, hey, everybody, we're justified.
Yep, and we can go ahead and cry in a corner about it.
Yeah. But, you know, to get off of the sad stuff, we wanted to also bring some levity to this episode. So we have to give some context for it, though. So there was this mini-series that Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood did, and the English voice actors actually did dub it. I'm not sure where it's available now. Some of them used to be available on YouTube, but I
actually found a clip of this specific one.
Oh, perfect. Yes. So I guess you can look up on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of an animated version of those mini comics that the mangaka puts at the end of chapters. Mm-hmm. And in this case, I do like the animated version way better than the manga version because it's just so funny. But so they take the scene right before he was shot, and he's, you know, frantically getting on the phone trying to call Mustang, and he gets patched through, and he gets Mustang's voicemail. So we're going to play what Roy's voicemail is, and y'all are going to get a kick out of this. So here we go.
Oh, snap, snap, spark, spark, it's time to light up the diggy dark. I'm the flame alchemist, and I'm gonna be Fuhrer. My beats are hot, and my rhymes are purer. I like the ladies in their mini skirts. I'll be posing in the mirror without my fancy shirts. I'm gonna set your heart on fire, whoosh, whoosh, and you know my heart burns bright too, kaboom, kaboom. My firepower tonight is feeling just right, kablam, kablam.
I need you to hang up the phone now, Lieutenant Colonel Hughes.
And Travis every time. Oh man, I saw a clip from a panel he was in at a comic convention, and he's like, somebody asked him to do the flame rap, and he had to explain to the audience what it was because not everybody knew, and he's just like, I love that video because he's cracking up and he's trying to do it. And he's like, okay, guys, here it comes. And he's just laughing. And then he starts rapping and he's like doing the motions to it too. And he's just having so much fun with it.
Yeah.
Voice actors have the best jobs.
Yeah, I love that so much. We'll add it to our YouTube channel so you can find it easily. But it's so good. It just perfectly encapsulates Mustang. Like,
that
I can
one
just
clip makes this episode just a little more tolerable.
yeah, that. Oh, I love it. I think it's probably one of the things that has made me laugh the hardest.
Yes. I had seen fan art. People had made comics with the flame wrap in different situations. Yeah. I didn't know it was a real thing. And then Meg and I found that video on YouTube and watched it together. And I was like on the floor crying, laughing because I didn't know it existed. And as soon as my ears were graced with that sound, I just couldn't keep it in. That was insanely funny.
Yeah. So a little bit of a lightness to this very, very sad episode.
You will be missed, Hughes.
Yes, you will. And we will continue to talk about him because although this is the last, he's no longer alive. We still see him in the show. So it's
all right.
Yeah, and that's
can
the end.
Yeah, get into our outro now.
Yes. So, favorite line of the episode, Megan?
Yeah. I chose a funny one because, again, need some levity here, but it's from Alphonse, and he says, in reference to when they're talking about visiting their teacher, he says, "It would have been nice to at least have had a girlfriend before I died."
Yep.
And what was yours, Meg?
Yes, mine was serious. I picked what Mustang said at the beginning of the episode when he was talking with Hughes during the Ishvalan War is, "I'll do anything possible to protect the ones I love." And that, I think, is I really like that quote, and I think it was chosen because of what happens in this episode.
For sure.
And also I think it's just applicable to life because
yes,
and
that leads
anything.
Yes, that perfectly leads into the moral of the episode because we kind of have two, but the first one relates to what Mustang said. I'll do anything possible to protect the ones I love. He continues on after that and says, and they'll in turn protect the ones they love. So he's trying to make this society where we just pay love forward. And I think that's very important to remember in life. Take the love you've experienced and protect those that you love and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And I think that's something that Hughes did very well.
Oh, yes.
He was just he really cared about people, and I loved it.
Yes. And the second moral was when Meg came up with, and it's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. Don't pretend it's rain. It's okay. Just weep. Don't be tough.
Yeah, I appreciated at the funeral, like everybody looked genuinely sad. It wasn't just like, oh, it's a fallen soldier. It's like, no, he was a friend. Yeah. And we need to stop it and mourn him.
It kind of reminds me, I've seen military burials depicted in movies, but minor spoiler warning, Top Gun Maverick, there was a military burial, and with all of the it was very official, but also very somber, but you could feel in the theater, you could just feel this wave of respect radiating off the actors. So that's kind of what I got from this scene in Full Metal.
Yeah. All right, and then who pushed the story forward in this episode?
Hughes.
Yeah, he did. His death becomes a driving force for Mustang, and for other characters, and it also the characters so far that know about the Philosopher's Stone, they start to be like, oh, this is serious.
There's a lot of people involved just from being in contact with the Elrics, and obviously later down the line this will also affect the brothers. but everyone in military command, everyone who interacted with Hughes is affected. I would say even the villains will be affected, just taking out a player like that, a major player in the story like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did Hughes realize is the question.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, and that's the end of what we have to say for this episode. It's a good one, even though it's sad. I do have some good memes to share for this episode. I feel like the saddest episodes in this series always have like the best memes, so I'll be sharing that on our Instagram. So
it's the desperation of people trying to make themselves feel better.
Yeah. So go ahead and follow us on Instagram at fullmetalbeyondthegate. And if you have any questions or comments, DM us or email us at fullmetalbeyondthegate@gmail.com. Yeah. And check out our YouTube channel because we will be posting the flame wrap.
And thank you so much for bearing with us through this tough episode.
Yeah, I can't believe it's already episode 10.
I know. We're gonna get a happier one next time, so stay tuned.
Yes.
And yeah, we'll see ya. Hear ya next time. I don't know.
No, we don't hear. You'll hear us
next time. It's so
All
good
right.
to hear us, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.